Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling something literally every single one of us deals with. We're going to look at how to finally fix those incredibly stubborn life problems by digging way beneath the surface. Using some really great insights from 12 Steps to a Good Life by Thomas Alethea, we're going to learn a highly targeted problem-solving method. And this is totally designed to prevent you from merely treating the symptoms of a bad habit so you can actually uncover the true root cause.
So why do we keep repeating the exact same mistakes? Honestly, it's infuriating, isn't it? As the source material points out, so many of us recognize these endless cycles in our lives. We have the same patterns, the same arguments, the same self-sabotaging routines, just playing out over and over again like a broken record. You know, maybe the places change, maybe the people change, but the behavior and those disappointing outcomes, they are absolutely identical. We swear to ourselves we won't procrastinate again or we won't lose our temper this time, but then, like clockwork, we do it anyway. And it creates this heavy, awful sense of existential emptiness and self-sabotage that we just can't seem to shake.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this distinction right here is the absolute core of why our typical self-improvement efforts just totally fail. Our source material makes this brilliant comparison. Treating just a symptom, it's exactly like taking pain medication for a much deeper injury. I mean, sure, it feels better for a minute, but the pain is guaranteed to come back every single time the medicine wears off. You might stop a specific behavior for, say, a week through sheer willpower, but you haven't actually cured the underlying issue. By contrast, treating the root cause, that is the cure. Until you accept that the real problem is way deeper than the surface behavior, you're just fixing symptoms. You're fighting a completely endless battle.
Section 1. The problem with symptoms. You see, when we focus only on symptoms, we get completely trapped in a loop. We set these goals based on what we think we should be doing, but as the author notes, what we want is rarely what we actually need. Our true potential just gets hidden, and our growth gets stunted by these completely erroneous ideas of who we even are. Think about things like losing your temper for no clear reason, eating when you aren't actually hungry, chronic procrastination, or, overspending. We beat ourselves up over these things constantly. But here is a huge sense of relief for you. These behaviors are absolutely not character defects. No way. They are simply surface-level symptoms of deeper, unconscious needs that haven't been met. Your mind actually has different modules, and sometimes a bad habit is just one module desperately trying to comfort you or protect you from emotional pain.
Section 2. What are the 5 whys?
So, if we can't just fight our symptoms with brute force willpower, what do we actually do? Well, introducing the 5 whys. This is a highly targeted, structured method to uncover the real root cause of an issue simply by asking why repeatedly. And it's honestly brilliant because it forces you straight past your own ego and those surface-level symptoms we were just talking about. Think about it. When we ask a question once, we usually just give ourselves an easy, superficial excuse. But by repeating the question, you completely bypass your own BS excuses and drill right down to the fundamental reality of the behavior.
But why the number 5 specifically? Well, while you might occasionally need a few more or a few less, asking why 5 consecutive times is usually the exact depth required to drill down past all your defensive layers and hit the core truth. Think of it like dealing with a toddler who just keeps asking why to everything you say. Actually, scratch that. It is exactly like dealing with a toddler. Eventually, you just run out of rehearsed answers, and you're forced to state the actual foundational reason. That's the magic number where the true cause usually hides.
Section 3. The Screaming Alarm Clock.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how powerful the technique is. Let's look at a highly relatable example right from the source text to show the peeling of the onion here. Let's walk through it step by step together. You ask yourself the first why. Why am I always late in the morning? The answer is surface level, because I hit snooze too many times. So you ask the second why. Well, why do I hit snooze? Answer, because I'm still tired. Third why. Why am I tired? Answer, because I stay up way too late. Fourth why. Why do I stay up late? Answer, because I scroll my phone in bed for hours. And here comes the fifth why, where things get incredibly real. Why do I scroll my phone? Answer, because I don't want to face tomorrow yet.
Just look at what just happened there. What initially looked like this purely lazy habit, just hitting the snooze button, is actually revealed to be an emotional coping mechanism for anxiety. The root cause is a literal fear of facing the next day. If you just tried to use willpower to put your alarm clock across the room, you'd still be completely miserable because you haven't addressed that underlying dread of tomorrow. Finding this root cause is the only way to genuinely change the behavior cycle for good. This whole concept is beautifully summed up by this famous quote from Albert Einstein that's featured on our source material. He said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions." And that is precisely what the 5 whys does for us. Defining the true problem, finding that actual root cause, is literally 90% of the battle. Once you realize you're dealing with anxiety rather than laziness, the solution suddenly becomes incredibly obvious.
Section 4. Solving complex issues.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this technique doesn't just work for your personal habits. When you're tackling massive, complex operational problems out in the real world, the 5 whys is a vital piece of a larger, hybrid problem-solving system. For instance, you might use the IDEAL framework to give you some structure, and maybe a Pareto analysis to prioritize which problems are actually having the biggest impact. But nestled right there in the middle of it all is our tool, the 5 whys, ensuring you are solving the real issue and not just swatting at symptoms.
Let's actually prove it with a business example from the text. Say a warehouse has late shipments. Why? Because orders take too long to leave the facility. Why does packing take so long? Well, there's not enough staff during peak hours. Why is staffing inadequate? Because shift schedules don't match the order volume. Why are schedules fixed like that? They have no demand-based scheduling system. And the 5th why is there no system? Because there's a lack of real-time tracking. Boom! The root cause isn't lazy warehouse workers. It's a lack of real-time tracking for processing time. The exact same psychological drill down that just solved our morning alarm clock problem perfectly solves a corporate supply chain issue. How cool is that?
Section 5. Breaking bad habits forever.
Let's move to and see how this builds completely back to you and to personal, actionable change. Because uncovering the problem is really just the beginning. This builds perfectly into step 6 of our source material, becoming ready to change. Once your 5 whys reveal the root cause, you've got to prepare your mind to let it go. You review what you found. You honestly analyze the hidden payoff. Like, what temporary relief does this bad habit actually give you? You acknowledge the harm it causes you and the people around you. You map out the behavior cycle. And finally, you visualize your life completely free of it. You aren't removing the defect by sheer force here. You're preparing your heart and your mind to finally let it go.
So, I want to leave you with this. What recurring cycle in your own life needs the 5 whys treatment today? Where in your life are you just treating the symptoms? Stop fighting the surface level. Seriously, grab a pen today, ask yourself why 5 times, drill way past your own excuses, and start digging for your own root causes. Because the clarity you find down there, it might just change your entire life. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and hey, happy digging!